So, let's talk about Phanon. His full kit just dropped, and honestly, it's one of the most detailed and layered designs we've seen in Honkai Star Rail. If you're into characters that completely shift how you play a fight, this guy is going to be right up your alley. He's not just another destruction unit, he's practically a self-contained boss phase. If you want to save up to 25% on the Hyacine and Herta banners, check out lootbar.gg. Here, I can buy 3,280 Wuneric shards for $40, while it costs $50 in-game. I just enter my UID and select a server. Since every top-up goes through the in-game channel, I received double the Oniric shards for my first purchase and saved $10. Besides Honkai, you can also top up in Genshin, and Lootbar has over 50,000 satisfied users. I regularly use Lootbar for my giveaways, so I can personally recommend it. Use my link in the description for an additional 10% discount. Now, starting from the top, Phanon is a 5-star physical unit on the destruction path. That means he's meant to deal damage, mostly heavy single target with some AoE. But what makes him stand out is how he operates. Instead of relying on simple rotation cycles, his entire kit is built around two internal mechanics: Core Flame and Scourge. Core Flame is his primary resource. He gains it whenever he's targeted by an ability, either from enemies or allies. Just being hit, healed, or buffed fuels him. When he reaches 12 points of Core Flame, he unlocks his transformation. This is the central moment of his gameplay loop, and he can even overcap a little, holding up to 15 Core Flame total. Now, when you activate that transformation, something pretty wild happens. Phanon enters a solo mode, and all your other characters literally vanish from the field. They enter what's called a departed state, which basically means they can't act, can't be hit, and are completely out of the turn order. From this point on, Phanon is the only one fighting. Here's where it gets a little weird. In the leaked data, this transformed version of him is referred to as unknown. That's not an error, it's just a placeholder because his true form hasn't been named yet. But functionally, it's still Phanon, just way more powerful and with an entirely new kit. While he's transformed, he doesn't take normal turns anymore. Instead, he gets 8 fixed extra turns with a speed stat set to 60% of his base. During this time, he uses a different set of attacks and skills, and he no longer consumes skill points. Instead, his abilities use a different resource, Scourge, which he builds up as he acts. At the end of these 8 turns, or earlier if something interrupts him, he ends the transformation with a massive finishing blow. This hit deals 960% of his ATK as physical damage, and it's spread evenly across all enemies. It's a huge payoff, but there's strategy here too. If you exit the mode early, the damage gets reduced depending on how many turns were left, so timing really matters. Now back in his normal form, his regular attack is pretty simple, but he has access to a skill that gives him Core Flame and hits both a main target and nearby enemies, and the synergy kicks in when he's the target of buffs or healing. If an ally targets him with an ability, not only does he gain Core Flame, he also gets a critical damage buff that lasts for 3 turns. So already you can imagine how well he pairs with characters like Sunday, or anyone that can boost him directly. Before we go deeper into the transformed state, there's one more thing: his technique. And this part is actually crazy. It increases your maximum technique points by 3, which is already unique. But if you use it before entering combat, he attacks all enemies in range, gives 25 energy to your team, generates 1 skill point, and gives himself 2 stacks of Scourge. That's just from a technique. And if you hit normal mobs, it skips combat entirely. You just delete them. So now let's talk about what he actually does in that solo mode. First, his basic attack gets upgraded. It now deals higher physical damage to the main target and some to nearby enemies, and it gives him Scourge. Then he gets access to 2 special skills. One of them forces all enemies to act immediately, yes, really, and then puts him in a defensive state where he takes 75% less damage. While he's in this state, every enemy action builds up a buff, and once they're all done, he counterattacks. That counter does multiple hits of physical damage to all enemies, and its power scales based on how many stacks he built during that phase. If the buff is still active on his next turn, he triggers the counter immediately. This whole move is treated as skill damage and also counts as a follow-up attack, which is great for synergy with characters who boost follow-up output. The second skill in his transformed kit is the real Nuke. It removes all debuffs from Phanon and then deals up to 1,170% of his ATK as physical damage. And it gets better. For every stack of Bruise he consumes, Bruise being another transformation-exclusive mechanic, he deals 4 more hits of 45% ATK to random enemies. And if he consumes 4 stacks in one go, he gets an extra AoE hit for 450% of his ATK. So if you manage resources well and go all in on this move, the damage is huge. On top of all that, he also heals for 20% of his max HP every time he attacks in this state. He's completely immune to crowd control debuffs, gains 80% increased ATK, and 240% max HP during transformation. And even if he takes a fatal hit, he doesn't go down. Instead, he revives with 25% HP and immediately triggers that final hit. And when the transformation ends, either naturally or early, he gives your entire team a 15% speed boost for one turn. So even though your team was removed for a while, they come back with some momentum. There are also a few passive upgrades or traces that help reinforce his core loop. One gives him 3 core flame automatically when he finishes transforming back, helping him cycle faster. Another increases his damage for 4 turns after receiving healing or shields, and even gives him extra core flame if an ally restores energy. And one more gives him a 50% ATK buff at the start of battle, or right after a transformation, and this buff stacks twice. So he really ramps up fast if you manage those cycles well. Now let's talk Idolons. His first one increases the speed of his extra turns during transformation from 60% to 72%, and also gives him 15% physical resistance penetration for 2 turns whenever he's maxed out on Core Flame. The second one gives him an extra turn after using his big AoE Nuke, if he consumed 4 stacks of Scourge to do it. It's essentially a free bonus action. The third and fifth Idolons are standard, just level boosts to Ultimate, Basic, Attack, Skill, and Talent. The fourth gives him 4 free stacks of Soul Scourge after using the defensive skill that triggers the counter, and his 6th Eidolon is a big one. It raises his Scourge limit by 2, gives him more Scourge generation from key abilities, and adds true damage to his finisher. That extra hit deals 20% of the total damage from that attack to the enemy with the highest HP, and since it's true damage, it bypasses all mitigation. So, yeah, Phanon's entire design is about building up energy, going into solo mode, and absolutely shredding enemies while your team sits back and watches. He's tanky, he's fast, he's got great sustain, and he can't be locked down once he transforms. But he also demands precision. You need to manage Core Flame, Scourge, and your skill timing carefully, or you might miss out on his full damage window. Is he for everyone? Probably not. He's definitely a high-investment, high-skill unit. But if you love characters like Jinglu or Blade, units that come alive once they transform or hit their peak state, you're probably going to love Phanon. So what do you think? Does the idea of locking out your entire team for a solo burst window sound exciting or risky to you? Let me know in the comments. And if you're planning to pull for him, I'm curious what team comps you're thinking about. Or if you're just going to let him handle everything solo. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.